Alright, here we go guys. This is going to be our 6th video in our Intro to SolidWorks tutorial series. And if you've been following along, so far what we've done is we created a 2D symmetrical sketch of this arrow, and then we applied an extruded boss base feature, and then we created some more sketches, created an extruded cut to cut a hole through the middle, and then we added a bunch of fillets. And so in this tutorial I want to talk more about the fillet tool and just really kind of close out that conversation. Because a lot of the tools that are up here in your command manager are a lot more robust than you may think, and the fillet tool is one of them. So I'm going to start with a new file and create a brand new file from scratch to talk about fillets. So far what we've done is we've been creating 2D sketches on our planes and then applying a 3D feature to that sketch after we've drawn it. But there's another way to do it, and I want to talk about that. If we know that we're going to make a sketch and then apply, say, extruded boss base to that sketch, we could just click on the feature first, and SolidWorks will ask us which plane do you want to work on here, and we'll just select the top plane. And then you see it opens us up right away into an active sketch. So SolidWorks understands that in order to create a 3D feature, you have to start with a 2D sketch, and so it opens you right up into a brand new sketch, and you can see that over here in your design tree. Here is your sketch, and if you look here, we see that we are in an active sketch here too. So it also switches us over from Features tab to Sketch tab so that we can grab one of these sketch tools to start our sketch. So I'm going to grab the line tool, and I'm just going to draw something out here. And since we're going to be talking about fillets and all the different kinds of fillets that there are, I'm going to draw a very specific style sketch, and it's going to look just like that. So here we go. I've got that, and I'm going to exit this sketch. And you see that because I chose the feature that I want to use first and then drew my sketch, SolidWorks fires off the feature right away once I'm done with the sketch and I exit out of it. So there you go. So I'm just going to hit the green checkbox here to confirm that the depth of my boss extrude is the height that I'd like it to be. Good. And I'm happy with this, and we're going to move right into fillet. So let's click on the fillet tool and take a look at what we've got. Although it may seem like it's only one thing up here, once you open it up in the property manager, you realize that there's actually 4 fillet tools inside of here. Now so far we've only used constant radius fillet, and that's where you create one size fillet that you can apply to an edge or a face. Well, there's also a variable radius fillet, and that's where you can create a fillet that changes from one size to another as it flows over your surface. And then there's face fillet, where you select 2 different faces and create a fillet in between those 2 faces that you define. And then there's full round fillet, which will take 3 different faces and create a round between all 3 of them. So let's take a look at that one to start. And you see that just by clicking on it, it changes the property manager to the full round fillet version, where you have 3 different input boxes to input faces into. So I'll click on the first one and I'll input a face. Second one, click a face. Third one, click a face. And you see what SolidWorks does there. It just takes all 3 of those faces and just rounds right between them. Now, you don't get the option to define what size this radius is. So this will be a tool that you'll use most likely when you find yourself in a scenario where you don't care what the radius is between 3 faces. You just know you want it to be round and not square and chunky. So there you go. So we'll hit the green checkbox to confirm we like that. And then let's flip our part around to look at another angle. I'll fire off another fillet feature, and we'll click on face fillet this time. And we see that face fillet has 2 boxes. Select one face and then select another face, and you will create a fillet in between those 2 faces. This one's a little bit more flexible because you can actually change the size of the fillet and define what you want it to be, and so that's great. And we'll hit the green checkbox to confirm, and there you go. Now you may be thinking, well, that one just does the same thing that the old fillet tool, the constant radius fillet tool, does. And you're right. If we go here and delete this and go up here to constant radius fillet, Constant radius fillet tool works really well when you have an edge like this to define between two faces. So if you just wanted to add a radius right on that edge, constant radius fillet allows you to do that. And so you see, that's just about the same thing that the face fillet did. But this is not exactly the most organic shape that anyone's ever created. In fact, it's really blocky and chunky. And there's a lot of really hard edges that we could grab onto. And so for a shape like this, constant radius fillet might be the one we choose because we have straight up right 90-degree angles that we can click on. But as you get more and more into creating more organic shapes, you might not have this opportunity to click on a super hard edge like this, and you might only have a couple of different faces to select between. And so in that sense, you're going to want to use face fillet. Okay. Also, face fillet has this extra box down here at the bottom, fillet options, which allows you to select curvature continuous and constant width, which just adds a little bit more geometry to clean up your edges. So if you're dealing with a little bit more organic forms, then face fillet is probably the way you want to go. It's a little bit more robust version of the constant radius fillet. So we'll just go ahead and add that one. So there we go. Okay, so then we've got one more to look at, and I'll click on and fire off another fillet tool, and it's variable radius. Now, I don't use variable radius fillets very often, and I'll show you why in a second, but I'll show you how it works. Click on that, click on a couple of edges. First edge will be this one, and you see what SolidWorks does is it asks you for a starting radius here and an ending radius here. So it's asking you how big do you want your radius to start at the beginning and how big do you want it to end, and it will flow between those two. So right here I'll just say like 0.05 mini radius, and then right here I'll click like 0.5, see if that works, and there you go. Okay, now we've got two other edges to deal with as far as this form goes, so I'll click on this one next, and it's asking me the same thing again. It's using this as my starting radius, and now it's asking me for my ending radius. And I can just go right in here, and we'll just make this one 0.5 also. And then I've got my third edge here, which I'll click on that one. And as we see, same as before, it's going to use this one as the starting radius, and now it wants an ending radius. So I'll just click right in here to this input box, and we'll say 0.05. And it zips it back to that small little radius where we started. So hit the green checkbox to confirm, and now you see what variable radius fillet can do. Start with a small, gets big, and then goes back to where it started. Now, this looks pretty cool when we've got our edges defined like this, and we've got these smooth flowing contour lines, which look pretty neat. But if we go up here to our display style, we can take away those edges and see what our part would look like in real life. And what we realize as we zoom in is that these highlights, in my opinion, don't look so good. I mean, this highlight just, it skews way out like this, and then it's kind of chunky over here, and it's just, I am not convinced that this is a very sexy form. And you know, that's something to pay attention to when you're doing product design, is you really want light to flow over your object well, and how your products produce reflections and handle light on the surfaces that you're creating really defines whether you're a good 3D modeler or not, and tells a lot about the quality of your skills in 3D. And so hopefully you won't ever find yourself in a scenario where your client asks you to do something like this. But in case they do, or if you find yourself needing to have a fillet that expands from one size to another, variable radius fillet will do the trick. So that's enough of that for now. We'll turn these back on, and that variable rate fillet is ugly enough that I'm going to actually just get rid of it. And why don't we just go ahead and add a face fillet that looks a little bit cleaner here. So back to face fillet, we can select this top face as our first face, and then in this second face input box, we can actually select all three of these faces for the second box. It doesn't just need to be one in each one. And as you can see, it started a radius there, and then it dropped it because I have it set to a 1-inch fillet, and that's just too big for this extrusion. I think this extrusion is not even an inch high, so it's not going to add that. So I have to drop this down to something a little bit more appropriate. And as I get down into the area that it's actually capable of creating the fillet between those four surfaces, it starts to give me the preview that I'm looking for. And so there we go, and that'll work fine for that. We'll just add constant width, and it's going to add a nice, clean, constant width radius across all four of those edges, creating constantly placed isoparms between each one. Nice, clean radius, just like what we want. And we'll go ahead and hit the green checkbox for that. And we'll take a look here. We'll just remove edges for a second too. You can see these highlights are a little bit cleaner and look a little bit nicer, and they don't really mess with your eye as much as that variable rate one did. So there you go. So that's fillets, guys, and be happy that SolidWorks is so good at adding nice, clean geometry to your parts, and fillets are really fun to use, and we're going to be using them all over the place. Don't forget that everything is adjustable, everything is flexible in SolidWorks, so we've got all three instances of each fillet. Each job that we did there is totally editable. We've got our first fillet, which is up here at the top, fillet 1, which was our full round fillet. We can go back in there and edit that. We've got fillet 4 turns out to be the face fillet that we added on this side, and fillet 5 is right there where we created a face fillet between this top face and these three edges. Okay, and just do a right click on any one of these and go up here to edit feature, and you can always just change the radius of this as much as you want. Who cares? There it is. Super easy. Okay. All right, guys, so play around with fillets, and in the next video we're going to move on to some of the other stuff that's up here that we haven't touched yet. Okay, thanks for watching it, and I'll see you in the next video.